Oh Lord, White Sox fans, here we are. We promised we have to come through. We promised a post-game podcast, and we got to deliver. This includes 100% of the writers for today's debauchery of an opening day game, and that would be Kristina, AIrdo, and myself. If you see the wear and the age on my face, yes, indeed, it's because not one but two stories penned by me on this horrible, horrible day, and of course, because actually she avoided driving all the way up to Chicago to see this game. She's smart. She acted on her instinct to say, no, son, I'm sorry. We cannot go yet. The weather's miserable. We'll probably be out in the parking lot until like the fourth inning. So let's not go to this game. Turned out to be a wise choice because it wasn't a very good opener. Melissa salty Sage-Bollenbach for this podcast, and Kristina AIrdo, who is on the six-pack for us. Hello, I'm Brett Ballantini. I had to write two stories, and I am none too happy about it. Anyhow, listen, White Sox got crushed 12-3. At one point, it was 7-3, and Jace Minetti seemed to really feel like there was hopes of a ninth inning comeback. That was squashed really quickly by, I can't really tell who the position player pitching is anymore. We know that Jose Rios used to be a catcher, now he's a pitcher, but boy, he pitched like a catcher today, and Hanser Alberto actually, I guess, probably, he definitely had a better line in getting the White Sox out of that game. Okay, initial impressions. Kristina, you were on the coverage, so I guess you had to, I don't know, watch it closely or something. But impression other than the fact that you need some Tums or Peptid or something right now.
Yeah, that performance was wild with all those home runs. Kopech came out in that first inning and he went 1-2-3. He struck out two batters back to back, including Lamont Wade and Conforto, who RIP maybe would have been a Sox at some point, but that's forever ago at this point. Yeah, so the 1-2-3 there was great, and then I don't know what happened. Everything pretty much just went off the rails. And the fourth inning, he seemed to, whatever control he had maybe gotten back in the end of the second inning and the third inning, went out the window. I mean, 4 home runs in one inning. That was that was crazy. I haven't seen that in some time.
That first turn, I mean, 11 pitches. He mixed in that crazy changeup.
Yeah.
He seemed to be mixing pitches. I think he got up to, I'm sure maybe it was just like the mojo of opening day, but I think he got up to 97 with the fastball. So, I mean, that's a range you want to see. He looked like he listened to our pregame podcast, which said, hey, he's going to cut through the Giants like butter, 5 easy innings. He's going to go out like, 1, 2, 3 hits, maybe a run, and he's going to be a hero. That didn't turn out that way. Melissa, you're salty. I know you've had some time to, some deep breaths, maybe got a little pre-podcast yoga in, but I imagine your impressions are somewhat similar.
Yes. We talked last night about this Giants offense being like, Kopech's not going to have any problem with this Giants offense. And boy, oh boy, did he have problems with this Giants offense. But I think, honestly, it could have been any offense. I mean, he was just all over the place after, like Kristina said, after that, kind of second and third inning seemed to be a little shaky. But, I mean, he went off the rails and he couldn't get it back in. And then, as we always do, we just left him up hanging on dry.
Yep.
Just work through it. You're good. We know you're not fragile or anything. Just get through it. So yeah, it was, boy, oh boy, it was one of the worst home openers like in recent memory that I can dig through and think about. Like, oof.
Yeah, we're going to spend our time as one of the three of us is talking. The other two will be thinking about, geez, can I remember? Well, I mean, maybe there's a game, but boy, an opener, it's going to be hard. If we come up with one, we will hit you with it at the end without doing a stat dive. But boy, I don't think any of our guts say that home or road or overall road opener. I can't think of one. Not to Pedro Grifol, not to Ethan Katz, as Melissa said, sort of hung him out. I mean, I know you can't just, you can't powder his ass, he's a major leaguer, right? But I mean, that was interesting. So let's not necessarily take that route, but let's stick with Kopech here because there's a lot to talk about in this game. Let's stick with Kopech. Because we saw the stats that said this was his third game of 4 home runs. And my immediate reaction to hearing that in broadcast was, hold on, he hasn't had that many starts. So let's check it. 34 games started in his career, and that is up to date. So that is, three of almost 33% of his starts. He has coughed up 4 home runs. His ERA right now, career, stands at 3.86. Again, not burying the guy. We need him. And let's hope this is an easy one to shower off. And next week he gets right back out at it. But is this the guy? Is this guy a little more fragile than we'd like, or that maybe he was advertised coming over in the trade for? Is he a guy that, who knows, down the line is not going to be suited for 6-7 innings, but shorter outings? I mean, are we as Sox fans, and what we saw in the spring, are we in any sort of denial about what this guy can be, or is this just a matter of somehow finding a way to tinker and readjust? Because Ethan Katz supposedly is the guy, but we've seen some mixed results. AIrdo doesn't seem to have the Katz magic anymore, so I don't know. Is this who Kopech is?
That was tough. I mean, so you had mentioned the changeup too. That was pretty much the only pitch that was like remotely effective in a sense. It was the only pitch that they didn't hit a home run off. So
that's a sad way to determine effectiveness, but very good.
Well, exactly. And today the bar is pretty low.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe Ethan Katz can take some of these learnings and figure out what needs to happen here. But I don't know if it's, a lot of it looked like he maybe wasn't hitting his spots really. Some of those were kind of hanging right over the plate. I mean, so you're pretty much asking to be taken out of the park at that point. So
yeah.
I think maybe it could be like first game jitters. I know he kind of struggled a little bit in spring training. He was maybe sick or whatever it was. And last year he was injured. So I don't know, maybe it's like home opener. Everyone expects a lot out of me, and then he just foiled. I don't know. But I like you said, I hope he can just kind of roll this one off and keep going for the next one, because we need him. Like our bullpen is really rough, and the starting pitching seems to be the only thing that's right now holding that together. So we need a healthy and fully operative Michael Kopech.
Yeah, not to be meathead, like, oh man, he's whatever, 26 year, however old he is, he's old enough, he shouldn't be going through this. Listen, everybody's different, and sure. If this was Christian Mania, I'd be like, okay, he's 20 years old. I'm like, he got called from AA. Oh, of course, jitters. Oh, poor guy. I mean, Kopech has been through this before, so it's a little tough to kid glove him too much. Although, what choice you have? The White Sox have no stars. They better kid glove him because they need this guy for 120 at least. If not, I mean, I'm guessing they're hoping for a lot more, but it didn't work out too well so far. Okay, Melissa, you've been through a roller coaster today because Michael Kopech was, again, certainly not calling you out here, but I mean, you went against the grain, said, hey, listen, I think Kopech, I'm going to get on the Kopech train here. I think he is really going to be, I mean, you said MVP, but clearly you had a feeling that he was going to do what we're hoping he's doing. And by no means does one start ruin that. But how you feeling about him right now?
I feel with Michael, like we have just treated him with kid gloves for so long, sit out COVID, and we got to, put him in the bullpen and then work him up. I mean, at what point, if we're not getting what we're expecting out of him, and again, yes, one start, so we're not going to throw him in the bullpen already, but like at what point with him do we pivot and try something else? But I guess we can't really when the only options that we have in AAA are Tanner Banks and Sean Burke, and I mean, guys who are,
just as big a crapshoot. Sure.
Yeah. Just, I mean, it's not like that's going to solve the problem. So I think, again, Han has pretty much put us in the place where we're forced to see how this is going to work out, even if it implodes in our face. And I think that that's a really frustrating place to be, because I think we were all thinking, well, starting pitcher 5 is probably going to be our worst problem this year. And now if starting pitcher 5 and starting pitcher 4 are our problems, then I don't know where that leaves us. Doesn't make me feel real positive about where we're going.
Yeah, going in the season, you think, okay, on paper, I mean, the whole, redacted aside, whatever, but okay, just physically, okay, that's a pitcher who could give you innings. I mean, I guess technically you would kid yourself into saying, okay, on paper, if you didn't see any names next to the stats, you'd say, okay, this certainly pre-Johnny Cueto signing, this is a slightly more fortified rotation. Again, in a contention window, I'm just not sure how the dereliction of duty as a GM this is. I know there's a lot of pushback, even within our group. Darren Black's somebody who likes to point out a lot, like, why nobody has a 6th starter. Nobody has somebody's going to sign up to be your guy in Charlotte in AAA. Well, I understand you're not going to have 6 all-stars in your rotation. But the idea that the White Sox really sort of have apologies to Davis Martin, nothing, certainly nothing proven to say, hey, one guy goes down, one guy's ineffective, we can slide you in. And at that point, even if Davis Martin comes up, then there really isn't anything. Maybe a couple months in, Sean Burke proves he's a guy who can come up. The White Sox, arguably, because Jenny Cueto's not walking through the door, so the White Sox, we may find arguably have a worse and weaker rotation. That's with Lanson healthy from the start of the season than last year. And that's frightening because it does put us in a position where Kopech really has to deliver. That's not going to make pressure less. We can, as Kristina said, the pressure of opening day, that's not going to make the pressure on him any less when he's like, well, it's me or nothing. This really was about worst. I mean, really on both ends. The offense wasn't really anything to speak of. Although, hey, I guess they didn't leave so many guys on base. Yeah.
Slightly less runners on base. Yeah.
So, it was an all around rough game. Let's flip it before a break. I'm sure we'll get back to the negative again. Were there things in this game that you saw that you could take away and feel okay about? That's a real challenge, but I'm going to challenge you early on.
I could take some easy ones here. Luis Robert in the outfield, or the outfield as a whole. I mean, it's really nice having people that actually play the positions playing out there. But he's just been phenomenal. I mean, that catch today was unreal. He robbed the home run so casually that it didn't even look like he robbed the home run. And then after I watched it, I was like, holy shit, like that was for sure going to be over the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been fantastic. Yoan Moncada, he wasn't as clutch today as he was. He did ground out in the double play, but I mean, he's still showing that power, another extra base hit today. And Andrew Vaughn coming in clutch again. So, I mean, there were still some good call outs there for sure. They did go 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. But that's kind of just been the name of the game right now.
Yeah. And Vaughn, milquetoast as he is, getting a little feisty. That was interesting, if nothing else. I don't forget who said it on the broadcast. I don't know if it was Steve, it might have been Jason, that Robert pulling that ball in almost in a sly way, like he almost wanted the base runner so he could maybe double him off, because you did see him bring it down and he got it in with a hard throw and fast. I mean, you almost wonder if he was somehow trying to dupe the runner into running himself in a double play by, jogging the rest of the way through thinking it was a home run. The guy is crafty, and I don't know what that weird blip in his defense was, because he went from Gold Glove to and that wasn't just all like having one arm, although it didn't help, but that started before the arm. But boy, to see him back, he could hit 200. He'd keep chasing the crazy sliders, and he's a plus player for the Sox, because as we saw with the catch in the finale of Houston, I mean, he covers. Even though we have a supposedly real left fielder now and not Aloy, he still covers all of left field's ground. I mean, he basically he ran up to Benintendi and gave him a kiss and then made the catch. I mean, Benintendi, he ran 15 feet and he's like, well, he watched the play. He had a great view of the play. Positives, Melissa.
So my biggest positive taking away from today is the message from Liam Hendriks. He is in his last treatment for chemo, and he looks great and he sounds great. And I mean, that just made my day, hearing from him, and that he's in the last legs of his journey, because it's a really long and difficult journey. And so that to me made me feel hopeful that even if he doesn't come back for baseball this year, that at least he is heading in the direction of healing. And so that was really positive for me. Jake Diekman actually came in and totally no pressure, right?
Melissa, let me ask you, how sad is it when your pitching line, when you got to say the best pitching performance today was Jake Diekman? Good positive though, but wow.
Yes, it was very painful. It was when I was writing my notes, I was like, Jake Diekman looked decent. I have to give him credit. Jimmy Lambert didn't look great, but he did get it done. So I picked out a few positives, but the biggest one being Liam. So
yeah, no, that's a good one. And I mean, not that you're never gonna write the script this way, but even him being able to come back, say he's not able to even get back into shape, but he's able perhaps to be good enough to be traveling, or just in the clubhouse for home games, the lift that could give guys. I mean, it's hard to measure. Of course, you're never going to play it or strategize it that way, but the situation's been dealt, and the White Sox could reap benefit. His brothers in the clubhouse could really reap a benefit from that. And I'm sure they have been all along, just knowing that this guy they're so concerned about, is he's been throwing punches all the way. And I mean, we keep getting the messages like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. I thought he was on step 3. He's on step 10. What's going on? You see him and he's just looking like he of course, every time you see him, he's ready to get out there and pitch. And I'm sure he's like, I want to get out there and pitch. So yeah, that is, again, for your home opener, not great when that's your only highlight, but that's really the most important one. So it's super cool and it's great that he's conveying it and he's speaking directly to fans. He's like, hey, see you in a few weeks or whatever. That's wonderful. So, all right. Well, I mean, I guess we're gonna have to drive back in the negative at some point. Let's take a break. We can pause. Melissa can do a quick run of yoga. Kristina can just figure out what she needs. He's screaming to a pillow. I'll cannonball into the pool and come back out. Be cooled off, and we'll talk. I don't know. We'll brace for the talk about the game some more, and maybe the rest of this series where the White Sox go back on the road. Hang with us on the postgame podcast for just 1 minute. Hey, White Sox fans. Yep, you still are White Sox fans? That is awesome. You're joining us for this, so I guess you are. Good. Don't let one horrible, atrocious, depressing, sad, tragic game scare you off your fandom. That's silly. Come on. We're here. If we're here, the least you can do is show up, listen, watch, subscribe, whatever. It's Sox Populi. We are here on the Postgame Podcast. Kristina AIrdo, who did the 6-pack of stats. Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, just smiling politely. And taking notes, though, two of our core writers who did not expect to be writing or having to attend games this sickening early. Because listen, we got sucker punched by the Houston series, led in every game against world champions, competitive. Hey, it could have been 4-0. And then look what happens. We come home against the also rans that the Giants were at 500 like us last year, and they just handed it to us. Did you see in this game what you needed to? I mean, it's pretty hard to show life when you're just getting your head beat in. Were there any other, were there signals positive or negative in this team? Was there something to be said for them fighting back to even get within 4 runs? Positives or negatives in terms of how you saw the team respond to the fact that Kopech just really didn't have it and sort of gave up this game?
I think that the offense could have helped him out sooner. I mean, they only got 3 hits against the starter for the Giants. So like that wasn't helpful for anybody either. So they definitely didn't capitalize on any of those positions or situations that they got themselves in. And that hurt them a little bit because once they did start hitting, it was like kind of too late. And then the bullpen continued to implode. So it was just like, well, I guess I should say Jose Ruiz, because that grand slam was pretty much like the nail in the coffin, even though 4-run comeback in the 9th would have been really difficult. But some positives there, like they didn't really give up. I would say like they kept trying to get hits. They did get hits. They got on base. But they, like I said, they were 1 for 7 in scoring position. So it just didn't help. They weren't scoring all those runs. The Luis Robert homer was great. Too bad no one else was on base. So there was some positives, but I don't know. I think it was just kind of an off game all around and they just need to take the L and move on.
I mean, this is a not 6-pack of stats writing for you here, Kristina, but this is as unique line score as you're going to see. You got 7 home runs given up by White Sox pitching, 8 walks, 9 strikeouts. Not that 19 strikeouts would have made it like a much better or different game if you're giving up 7 home runs, but just the combination of numbers you're not usually going to see. In this day and age, the idea that you have almost a 1-to-1 ratio of strikeouts to walks against an offense, this wasn't the Astros, this is against an offense that, all right, maybe they're not as bad as we had said earlier today, Melissa, but I mean, come on, it's not an all-pro offense either, is pretty frightening. What did you see in this, Melissa? Were there positives or negatives to be taken out of maybe the response to getting down? Obviously they didn't do anything, so I mean it has to at least be somewhat negative, but were there any flickers you saw?
Yeah, I mean, like Kristina said, at least they didn't completely roll over and die, which is kind of what they did all of last year. I felt like if they got behind the 8 ball at all, it was just like, meh, it's over. So I mean, at least they seem to still have some life in them. But something that is like really bugging me, and I'm wondering how long we're going to sit with this, is like, how long is Andrew Benintendi going to sit in that 3-hole? Like I've seen people talking about it on Twitter and things as well. He just doesn't seem like a 3-hole hitter to me, and he hasn't had a really good start. And, I don't know. So, and we're just not getting much out of Eloy either. So I just feel like that, like 3 and 4 hole just really kind of just been like dead air, dead weight. If Luis is going to keep hitting, I mean, the power. So that, I guess that is a good thing. The power from Luis, I mean, we've seen 2 home runs in the last 2 games, but if there isn't anybody again on base, like Kristina mentioned, would have been nice if there, I just feel like, I don't know. It's, to me, it seems like we're missing something there with our 3-hole hitter.
Yeah, and it's maybe, I mean, I suppose you want to avoid doing too much tinkering, but when Moncada is starting, he came in, I mean, you knew he was probably coming in hot. I know he had his he had the collision, so it's like, oh, is it going to be all right? But I mean, pretty much hit the ground running at the end of spring training. He's been consistently matching, really smart opposite field hit that Kristina alluded to right at the top. Hitting it way into the, the hole because the third baseman shading way over. Again, whether that was intentional or not, I mean, he can mash through, at any point in the infield, but smart hitting. This is stuff we haven't always seen from him. And obviously he is quite a flashpoint for the Sox fan base and all you clowns who think that somehow he's not a valuable player. I don't know, need to read more or something. I don't know. But, the point is the guy's hitting. Moving up on the order wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing. I know you like Benintendi's ability to get on base, and obviously a swing from the side of the plate he does. That helps and makes you a weapon. But yeah, at some point you're hopefully going to be willing to tinker. On that note, let's talk a little about what we've seen from Pedro Grifol. Very early, small sample size of him as manager, and spring training really isn't a way to evaluate too terribly well. It seems like he's held his own pretty well. Sort of faced up to Dusty Baker at the end of the game, I think in the finale there today. Don't know. It seemed like he did take a little snooze a little bit there. I mean, what can you do? Those were rapid fire solo shots, but geez, just to trot out there. I don't know. I think you still get 2 visits right before you got to take the guy out. So I don't know. The evaluation of how he's been doing. I mean, that could have to do with the batting order, but it could have to do with how he's mixed guys in, or just what you've seen from the guy, and that maybe the spirit of the team has any sense from him. Are we feeling pretty good with his sort of early footprint through these first 5 games, even though just 2 wins?
I think that he's done a pretty good job so far, with a small sample size. Obviously today, I agree. I think that he could have gotten Kopech out there maybe a little sooner, but like it was pretty much like home run after home run after home run. So you don't expect that to happen 4 times in a row, basically. Yeah. But what are you gonna do there? I think the lineup consistency is really great. I agree with Melissa, though. I think I would definitely not hate swapping Benintendi and Moncada right now. But I'm not going to hold that against his head right now. It's it's only the 5th game or whatever, so there's still a lot of time for him to manipulate the lineups. And I know Tony did it at every game, so it's kind of nice to be able to see these guys like try to settle into their place in the lineup. So I think he's done a decent job. I do think that maybe in the pitching situations, he's either brought in someone that maybe was like questionable for a situation, or just leaving someone out there too long. But for the most part, I think I'm happy with him right now. I mean, I think he's doing a good job, especially it's only a 5th game managing.
Yeah, to be fair, he might have been managing just to keep Ruiz out of the game, and of course that did fail. So that might have been why he was holding off. And again, unfair advantage to Grifol. He didn't have the temptation of a Leori Garcia to plug into that lineup every other game. That makes it so much easier compared to the difficult task that Tony La Russa had, because it's like, this weapon is here. I gotta use the guy. And he just gave in. He just gave in so many times. Your assessment, Melissa, in terms of just what you're seeing from the guy.
Yeah, I appreciate the lineup consistency for sure. I do like the fact that the guys know like what's expected of them, but I also like Romy had been kind of on a hot streak at the end of spring training, and Elvis has been, and that makes me really bummed because I just loved him last year, and I was so excited when they signed him, and I mean he has really been stale in these games, and so I would like to see prop Romy in today, and give him a start and see what he can do. So while I appreciate that consistency, I also would like to see like can we get a happier medium? Like Tony changing it every day and like Pedro keeping it like this is it and this is what we're gonna have no matter what, is a little more stringent than I would like. I would like a little more flexibility there.
Yeah, this is the worry we have about Elvis, that he's the Oakland A's, Elvis again. And if he is wearing, like, if it's like some sort of weird good luck thing where he's like wearing a Oakland A's t-shirt under his jersey, or he's doing the Michael Jordan where he's wearing like the Oakland A's shorts, cut it, Elvis. Don't do, leave him home, wear sock stuff, wear just tidy whities, whatever. That ain't working. Get the exercise the A stuff, because we need you as the White Sox guy who was like our war leader, having played like 5 weeks for the team. That's unrealistic, of course, but this also isn't great. This is going to get Lenyn Sosa up. This is going to get Romy as the main guy. I don't know what it's going to get, but it's definitely not going to get him playing, getting 600 plate appearances for the White Sox this year, because what he brings on defense is great. What he brings, certainly leadership, is great. Even if he's slumping, I have a feeling he's a guy who's still going to step up with leadership, but it's not that indispensable. It's not Luis Robert indispensable, where you can cover right field, you can cover pole to pole, and all right, and then he's going to catch a mistake here and there at least to hit a home run, even if he's hitting 200. Elvis doesn't have that kind of value offensive side, so that's a good point. I mean, as weird as it was to see, I mean, it's strange we saw Romy in the opening day lineup, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, he's on the team, right? So a little strange.
Put him on a milk
Yeah,
cart.
I mean, I know we're nitpicking, but this, it's a podcast. Well, of course we're going to nitpick. Geez, and they just lost like 800-3. So yeah, okay, we're going to nitpick. Sorry, guy. Sorry, White Sox. It happens. Oh, hey, yeah. Here, let me. Here's my cheapy punch, AJ, that the White Sox sent me. I realize now, they probably just gave me like the dump ones, like the ones in case there wasn't overflow demand, and so I got this goofy black and gray one, but I still think it's cooler than the one AJ showed off today. And hey, shout out to AJ. He somehow did not run the White Sox into the ground during his very brief time in the booth. He's actually was sort of positive. He seemed sort of enthusiastic. I don't know if he could throw first pitch. Maybe it's automatic. You gotta be a little sunnier about the team. But boy, what a change! A couple of years ago in the division series, like, he never played for the White Sox. That jerk. Well, all right, maybe we'll welcome you back into the fold a little bit, AJ. We always did love you, but man, sass mouth, just like train it equal on both teams. You don't got to necessarily bias the Sox, but man, quit picking on the Sox. Jeez. Okay, let's see. We have 2 more games against the worst situation after a 12-3 loss is an off day after that. So the White Sox get to simmer in it for a day, and then they come back for Wednesday and Thursday. Dylan Cease coming back Wednesday. I'm going to guess, this could be a short answer, I'm guessing we're feeling pretty good about at least getting back one game in this series with Dylan going on, because he looks untouchable.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Dylan will be great. I think it's so freaking weird though that they have an off day tomorrow. Like, when someone said that, I did not realize that was like in the middle of the series. I'm like, why the hell would they do that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to, hopefully they could just take the rest day, take a lap, get Dylan back in Wednesday and just try to settle back in. I really think that they should just try to move on from this one and take it, and just, it is what it is. Like, yeah, hopefully they don't dwell on it for too long, because if we're only going to score 3 runs again, then we're really going to be looking like the 2022 White Sox.
Kristina says, hey, you babies, who cares if you played every day in spring training and you played 4 games in a row against World Champs? What do you lazy bums? What are you getting a day off for? Yeah, I guess it's a weather thing. I do think it is pretty traditional. There's always like the opener, especially in these bad weather cities. There's always like the off day that then you can use, but it definitely doesn't help the White Sox in this series. Melissa, are you feeling okay about Wednesday despite what we saw here today?
It's when it's Dylan Day, it's hard not to feel good about it, especially with what he did against the Astros. If he gives us 3/4 of what he gave us against the Astros against the Giants, I think we'll be good to go. So it makes me feel good knowing that actually we have Dylan and then we have Lance for the last 2. I feel like we can catch those last 2 games at the end and then hit the road.
Yeah, it sort of matches up nicely our weaker spot, as is being revealed here through the first turn, our weaker spot of the rotation, which makes sense, 3, 4, 5, come up against the Pirates. Again, not overlooking the Pirates, but I'd rather have them going up against the Pirates than the Astros or the Twins. Speaking of that, okay, we have, as I was surprised to learn, as I just looked it up during the podcast for this morning, 9 of our first 12 games are on the road. After this series, White Sox go to Pittsburgh, and Minnesota, and the turf may have thawed out by then. But that's not an easy draw. White Sox 2 out of 5 so far. So that's 12 games. What is a reasonable expectation if you're going to feel good about, say, the next 2 weeks or the next month of this season? What record do we need of those 12 to sort of be feeling pretty good? Like, all right, tough start, good start, whatever, but I'm feeling pretty good that they're at this mark coming back home to start the rest of April. Kristina, what do you think?
I feel like they would need to win like at least 7 to like out of that to try to, recoup some of those losses. I mean, the ones against the Astros is kind of like, they could have won and that sucks, but they were playing really well at least. I'm just hoping that they can take some of those games against teams that are really not as strong as the Astros and, perform better. It didn't seem to happen today, but the Giants are definitely not as like poor of a team as the Pirates. So ideally they can take some of those that are quote unquote supposed to be easy. I know we talked a lot about the easy part of the schedule last year that ended up being the not easy
That's
part.
Right. I forgot all about that, Kristina. Oh my God, a nightmare. I'm having a nightmare tonight. Okay. Yeah, you're right. We did talk about that a lot.
A 12-3 loss or 11, whatever it is, 12-3 loss. And I think that's giving a lot of poor flashbacks. But,
yeah.
I think 7-8 would be awesome. But trying to come back with like a more of a winning record from the road trip, I think would be really helpful for morale.
All right, White Sox. Kristina has thrown down the gauntlet. You got to win 5 of 7 for her to feel good about coming back home 12 games in. Melissa, what is it for you? Is it 500? Is it a game over or 2 games over like Kristina's saying?
Minnesota is interesting to me. I mean, they have a little bit of momentum here. I know they swept Kansas City in their first series, and so I'm going to kind of keep an eye on them this week because that series might be a little harder than we think if they continue the momentum. And so that's why I'm just going to go with our favorite number as White Sox fans. I'm going with 500.
What else could it be?
What else could it be, honestly? If we can get these last 2 at home and then go and split on the road, we'll be 1 game over 500. Yeah. So I think that would be realistic to me, and I would be feeling positive about that.
Yeah, something about the shell shock of being a fan and having the contention window slam down on your fingers. At this point, it is like lowering expectations. And Kristina, absolutely, the 7 wins and 12 is totally reasonable. But I would probably say 6 too, because it's like, just give me reason not to think it's all done. Just give me reason to think it didn't get flushed. Now, last year was frustrating, not because they were 500. There's been a lot of seasons White Sox have been basically a 500 team. It's that the aspiration was like 95 wins. The expectation was, it seemed like they were going to just jog backwards into 95 wins, and the fact that they were flirting with under 500 or 500 all year is like, okay, it made it seem like it was just a catastrophic tragedy of a season. This year is like, okay, expectations reset. 500 is pretty much the baseline, so anything you're hovering around there, okay, I'll keep watching. I mean, we all gotta watch, but okay, I'll keep watching. And hey, a little 7 wins, like hold on now, okay, playoff tickets, okay, 7 wins is enough to make you think, especially in this division, hey, who knows? But I think we're all sort of on the same page, and it's a safe page given that somewhere hovering near 500 is pretty much where it's at. And I'm afraid to say in September, we might be talking about the same thing. Just hopefully not, oh gosh, if they can just get to 500, but I guess we'll see. That's why we play the seasons. That's why we play a game like a home opener where you don't think there's any chance that it's going to be a 12-3 drubbing, but indeed a doleful drubbing it was. The White Sox losing 12-3, and these two fine Southside Sox and Sox Populi personnel decided to muster up the courage, gird the loins to say, hey, listen, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the White Sox after that gut-wrenching loss. So thank you, Kristina. Thank you for Melissa for stepping up and allowing me not just to talk to myself, because nobody really wants that. Okay, well, listen, I can't tell you when we're going to have a post-game podcast again. I mean, what's the special game coming up? We don't have any necessarily planned. Playoffs are a long, maybe years away. Hopefully not. No hitter, of course, stuff like that. Of course, we always do. 1 hitter, like if Allie Wessel happens to go to another deal and he's 1 hitter. Well, of course, if she's kind enough to share some time with me after she gets home, absolutely, we will do a post-game podcast or stuff like that. Otherwise, it's not going to be a routine thing, but As always, you just stick with Sox Pop. We got tons of stuff rolling out. We got 3 more minor league podcast previews coming up this week. We'll get back into our sort of regular schedule of, regular programming, whatever it is, Monday podcast, whatever it's going to be. Of course, visiting a dugout with Crystal O'Keefe. That's rolling. We got 2 in now, and Pittsburgh's coming up right around the corner. So write it down in your notebook because that's going to be a spicy one. But yeah, we're going to throw a lot of stuff at you. As always, tons of, whether this team proves worthy or not, we have committed to a lot of copy on this team once again. And hopefully it's not all going to be just grumbling and unhappy. Hopefully there's going to be some happy moments as well. Melissa, Kristina, thank you both for joining me. Thank you everyone out there for listening, watching, whatever it is you're doing. We definitely will be back quicker than you're ready for us, as is always the case. Thank you for joining us on the Fans First Sports Network and Sox Pop, derived from the Latin Sox Populi. Take care.